What's going on, Elevation Nation? It's great to be back on the microphone with you today. Sam's got a little spray tan going on in his hotel room. He was in New York City. He's looking nice if you're coming in on YouTube. We have such a special guest today, Bill Villafranco, joining us. He is someone that I connected with a couple months back. We immediately hit it off. We were getting vulnerable right up front. And I'm really excited for what we're going to get into today, Bill. But first, we got to give a shout out to your daughter. It's her 9th birthday today on May 6th when we're recording this. So shout out, Louisa. Happy birthday. Hope you had the best day. And you know what? This podcast is probably out a couple weeks later. You can still celebrate because it's always worth another celebration. Bill, welcome to Elevation Nation. It is great to have you. How's it going?
Thanks, Parker. It's awesome to be here. Good to be here, Sam. And I do like your spray tan. It definitely looks good on you.
This is brutal. I feel like I ate 1,000 carrots. I'm not in my normal podcast studio. I'm on the road. And if you are just listening, it might be worth checking out the YouTube because I look like I just returned from the Jersey Shore. But we are making it work. Bill, I've heard incredible things about you. I've been looking forward to meeting you. I know you've been interacting with our stuff. Parker's been hyping you up. And so I'm just honored we get the chance to sit down, hang out with you, talk about your story. And before we get into it, Parker's told me about you, but for Elevation Nation, all our listeners, we like to start every episode throwing it back to business school with a little elevator pitch. Can you share with our listeners who you are?
Yeah, sure. So again, I'm Bill Villafranco. I am a father of 6 children, 5 daughters and 1 boy, which I'm really, really proud of, all of them. I run a money management firm. I'm also a trustee of a private foundation, which was founded upon the passing of one of my clients. And I like to think that I am a global philanthropist, where I'm assisting charities around the world in providing funding to them.
And you're very, very much, we're very grateful to have you because we know you just came back from Thailand, right? I mean, you're probably sleeping when we're awake or awake. So you're probably all messed up in terms of your sleep. But tell us about what happened in Thailand. Why were you over there?
Sure, I'd love to. Actually, I returned last night. I'm feeling pretty good. It's a little odd. Maybe it hits me in a couple of days, but so far so good. So roughly 22 years ago, a money management client of mine who had been visiting Thailand and had gone on a number of trips and noticed and realized that many of the girls in Thailand, the young girls, when they're 18 years old, they're forced to leave foster homes. Or in many instances, young girls in Thailand are worth very little to a family. It's a very hard culture over there. And it's physical labor. So when a daughter is born, parents many times will sell their children for little bits of money because they need the money to be able to farm their rice, be able to work on the ships. So we set up a school 22 years ago now, and we provide nursing education to 18 to 20 girls a year. And these girls have been trafficked. These girls have had domestic violence. These girls live in very, very poor villages. And they come to us for 1 year. We have a relationship with a major university in Thailand, Siam University, where they're taught to be nursing assistants. And after 1 year, they graduate with a degree. And with that degree, they're guaranteed a job, which is an important part of this program. They're guaranteed a job at one of the hospitals. Equally as important, they're guaranteed a place to live. Many of the hospitals have dormitories attached to the hospitals, so the girls are able to live in a room, make a wage that is beyond what their living expenses are, and many times send money home so that they can help their parents who are struggling financially. We've just graduated our 550th girl. And I was there to celebrate our 21st graduation.
I mean, Bill, that's incredible. And I want to dive so much more into how that started among all the other philanthropies that you're involved in. But before we go down that, because I do want to spend the majority of our conversation on how you're making the world a better place as a global philanthropist, I also want to take a second to go backwards a bit and talk about how you even got to the point of meeting these incredible people, having the ability and the mindset to be a global philanthropist. You started in the financial world and were in that. How did you kind of start in the field of financial management? And then what kind of happened to you over time that made you want to do something more?
Yeah, and that's a great question. It all goes back to one's core values. And from a very young age, I cared about people. My mom, who's since passed, told a story that at 7 years old, I got up out of bed early on a family vacation and went downstairs with the money I earned doing chores around the house and bought her a candle and brought it up to the room. And it was a little Coca-Cola candle. It looked like a Coca-Cola glass. And she was so touched by that. And it was that always brought me back to my roots. And I care about people deeply. And because of that, I was able to marry the financial education I received at St. Bonaventure University and then my MBA at Fordham, and worked at Bessemer Trust Company. And Bessemer Trust Company is an old line trust company in New York. And what they do so well is take care of their clients. So not only do they manage money, but it's the other things that they do. They work with clients in every aspect of a family situation. And that's where I really learned how to take care of a client. It's just not the financial returns one receives. It's the soft things that you can do for that family, helping a child get into a college, maybe selling a home, maybe working with them on buying a second home. Those kinds of problems are what they solve at Bessemer, and I was taught to solve. And in 1995, I decided that I wanted to go out on my own. I had a mentor, a trust and estate attorney, who told me that he felt that I would do much better helping families if I was out on my own. So in 95, I set out to work with families, many of his families, to be able to solve the same problems I was solving at Bessemer Trust Company, but in my own company. I met this woman in 1995. She had just sold her business. Her story is remarkable. Her name is Virginia Toulmin. Her husband was the patent attorney to the Wright brothers. Virginia was a nurse. Virginia graduated Washington University. She was able to work on the railroads. Back in the day, businessmen traveled by railroad from city to city to city. Her route started in St. Louis, went through Dayton, Ohio, and ended in Washington, D.C. And after a number of these trips, she met a man who was much older than she was. And after a number of months, they decided to get married. His name was Harry Toulmin. And Harry Toulmin, as I say, was the patent attorney to the Wright brothers. And he owned stock of a little pharmaceutical company called Central Pharmaceuticals in Seymour, Indiana. It was in bankruptcy. And he told Virginia, I'm going to put you on the board because one day this company is going to be the goose that laid the golden egg for you. You speak their language, you're going to be able to run this very successfully. Unfortunately, Harry died only 7 years into their marriage, and Virginia inherited the majority stake of Central Pharmaceuticals, which again was in bankruptcy, in 1965 in a little town in Seymour, Indiana. Now here's this little woman who is probably in her 30s, running this pharmaceutical company against the big pharmaceutical companies at the time. She ran it beautifully. She was intelligent, a mathematician like you wouldn't believe. And then in 1995, she decided to sell it to a German conglomerate for over $180 million. She never remarried, and that's about the time I was starting my firm. I got introduced to her from my trust and estate attorney friend, and I started working with Virginia in 1995. And we traveled around the world together. She taught me the importance of understanding the core values of people and be able to take those core values and see how they use them in their management style and how they execute their business plan. And when I tell you I went all over the world with her, I went all over the world with her. And I was fortunate at the time because I didn't have many other clients. And I also had no one to report to but myself. And off I went. She died in 2010. And when she died, she had a large sum of money. And I was still managing her money then. And her estate plan was simple. Roughly $87 million went to Georgetown University Medical Center in the honor of her husband's grandfather, who was the first graduate from the University Medical Center. Over $26 million to the Dayton Foundation, where she spent most of her life with her husband and then after. And then $140 million to her private foundation. And that's the foundation that I'm a trustee of. And she was brilliant in the way she executed this document. She sat me down a few weeks before she died and she explained exactly what I just told you, but she went into depth about her private foundation. And the depth wasn't very deep. It was simply, Bill, there's going to be 3 trustees, you, my estate planning attorney, and my private banker, and I'm leaving you no direction. You will do what you believe I would want you to do. But the most important thing she told me was, I am not going to manage this from the grave. As the world changes, I want my money to change with the world so it can do good wherever good is needed. And that's the way she left it. So 3 of us started out in 2010. We spent 2 years. We hired a consultant interviewing family members. She had no children, so it was cousins and second cousins and many business associates and many friends and many organizations she gave to. We started there. We then decided that what we really should be doing is the 3 pillars of what mattered most to her. 1 is the arts. She loved performing arts. 2, women and families. She had no family, but she always loved to empower women. So the idea of helping the nucleus through a female was important to her, and medical research, where she made her fortune. So we took those 3 pillars and we actually tweaked the artist series portion of it. And now we work with women in the arts, women in performing arts. We have the single largest private foundation program in the country right now in female performing artists. So that's how it all started. She taught me, and I continue to use their core values, the ones she taught me, the ones I live by, when we evaluate different kinds of charities.
I mean, I know Sam is thinking very similar to me. Like, what? Just an incredible story, first of all. And the way you tell it, Bill, just captivated me, and just the impact that she made, the impact that you're making, the impact that the foundation is making. And I mean, it's just really, really cool to hear from my perspective. You know, we met just a couple months ago, just like, wow, like you can really make an impact globally. The thought of that is unbelievable and crazy to think about. Something I always think about, Bill, too, is especially recently as Sam and I have gotten very involved in the Experience Camps, if you know Experience Camps Foundation. They bring grieving children to summer camp. And this was a foundation that we got involved in after we both experienced a lot of sudden loss in our lives. And we got involved. We went to camp. We celebrated a week there. We, got to meet incredible people who were volunteering, incredible people who were there to enjoy camp. And I left that week thinking, I can't believe I waited this long to really commit my own time to a foundation, to other people. And then I started thinking more and more about it, and looking around in my circles. Young people are trying to navigate life in general, work, trying to get to the next tier, trying to make an impact so they can live a financially secure life. They want to find their person. They want to build a family. They want to enjoy life as well. And I looked around. I'm like, why aren't more young people volunteering and spending time for others? And so I'm curious, Bill, what is your message to young people on why it is so important for a young person to volunteer their time? But on top of that, why it can be so much more fulfilling, and to your point about values, it can help you really understand your true value in the world.
Yeah, I think, and it's a great question. I'll tell you my story. and where this led me. As we get older, sometimes we get confused, and sometimes we just strive for perfection, and sometimes we make mistakes, we can't accept them, and sometimes a life experience happens that we just can't understand, and we lose sight of what matters most. So I had a child who died at birth. I was 28 years old, went into the hospital to have a little boy. My wife went through the birthing process, and he died coming down the birth canal. He had a true knot umbilical cord wrapped around his neck. And here I am, 28 years old. Now I was a grown-up because I had to make up grown-up decisions in a real quick second. I then lost myself. I didn't know who I was anymore. I identified as the grieving father, identified as the person who lost his child. So I got lost, and I got lost in a big way. And I ended up experimenting with drugs. I ended up drinking too much, and all the while trying to keep my family together. And it wasn't until 15 years later that I was able to really understand what happened and why it happened. But during those 15 years, they were a great learning experience now that I look back. I had the toys. I was very successful early on, and I had everything that we want, right? The cars, the stuff. And then when I came out of what really mattered most, and that's when I realized the death of my son after 15 years, I realized that none of that mattered. What mattered more was how I felt when I did for someone else. And I think people are so consumed on their phones. They're so consumed with a lot of chatter out there, none of which truly matters. They want to reach the next plateau. And I think the thing that youngsters are afraid of the most is admitting that they didn't get it right. Right? So when you're in medical school, you're not allowed to get it wrong. It's got to be right. And I think that's the way we operate in our society right now. And I love to be able to sit with the younger people and go through some things that didn't work out right, but use them as an opportunity to grow off of those. My dad, who's 90 years old, lives with us. My mother died suddenly in 20. And he's the wisest man I've ever met. He's 90 years old. He has so much wisdom. And I think our generations are not open to listening, truly listening to what people are saying. They're too consumed on what they need to do next. But the joy I get when I'm in Thailand and I see these girls, the joy I get when I'm at the pediatric cancer camps that I volunteer with around the country, the joy I get from just doing something simple for someone, you can't take that away. And you're not going to do it if you're stuck on your phone. It just won't happen.
Bill, I want to say first off, thank you for opening up and getting vulnerable with us. I'm sorry for your loss, and obviously Parker and I appreciate you sharing all those details of the reality of life with us. And I think it's such a fair point. We are so distracted, especially as a young society, and we oftentimes don't look deeper. And that's what Parker and I teach at Elevation Nation is mental fortitude, the ability to look within yourself, the ability to look where you want to go, and the ability to understand what drives you is the key, or one of the keys, to feeling fulfilled and successful. And I think for so many young people, they're told exactly what to do next. So they never have that vision beyond, well, I'm going to get good grades because my parents told me that. And then I need a good internship because that's what they said too. And the job. And then I don't know. And they don't know who they are at their core. Well, my mom told me I'm a good listener. My dad said I'm a great athlete. And that becomes who they are.
Yeah.
And what drives them is even deeper. Some of them can't even uncover that. And I think it's tough in our modern capitalistic society because we measure our success based on something very quantifiable, how much money or stuff we have. Whereas I wish there was a way to measure the fulfillment that we get from being a good person, making someone smile, going to Thailand and changing lives. For Parker and I, beating the little kids in Gaga when we're playing, sports with them at summer camp, but you can't measure that. And so when you can't measure that, then young people look to their left and right and go, well, then maybe I'm not doing the right thing because the other person seems to have more X, Y, or Z than me. And I just have this experience that I got to post on my Instagram. Like, does that make it good enough? And so we're in this constant comparison society. I don't have the answers. I don't know the solution, but I know for myself, as Parker and I have recently turned 30, what I care about as a young man has changed dramatically over the last 8 years as I've been in the real world. What started as I want to climb the corporate ladder, make 6 figures and a ton of money as quickly as I can, buy a nice car. I wanted a Tesla at the time, right? Like, that's what I cared about.
Right.
Now, what I look forward to every year is when I get to go be a kid with my best friend in Michigan with no cell service and get to see all the kids that I love and made an impact with because they made my life beautiful. And I'm sure you feel such a similar way when you get to go to Thailand and see the impact in the people that now have, I imagine, become family to you.
It's amazing. You know, there's a story I love to tell about a camp in Houston that I go to. It's called Camp H-Town, and it's a pediatric cancer camp. And it's called H-Town because it's at the Four Seasons Hotel. And the Four Seasons takes 2 floors, and they take all the room furniture out and they make it into a bunk for 30 kids and their siblings. And I get to go there and I get to play with these kids for a week. And 2 years ago, at the end of camp, they acknowledged one camper who really made an impact. And that year they happened to pick me. And I was the oldest one there, 62 years old. So I'm 60 years old at the time, and I'm playing with these kids. Sam, just like you were saying you do in Michigan. And this young girl stood up and they gave me a painting of handprints, all the handprints from the campers. 15 years old, she stood up and said, "You know what, Bill? We want to thank you. You were great. We had a great time. But we just want you to know that some of these handprints won't be here next year," meaning they would have passed. I melted. I was crying like a little kid and realized that, I did make an impact. But they made a bigger impact on me than I could have ever made on them. And I think that's really the story, is you could make a huge impact on people if you would just be you. Just be who you really authentically are and not ever worry about who the other person is or what they're thinking about you. Because when you're with that kid or you're with that person, they are so happy you're giving them your time. I mean, I did another thing in Seattle where I went on a 3-week adventure in the woods with at-risk kids with cameras. And their job was to take pictures in movies, and then they put together their own documentary of the 3 weeks. And we rented out a movie theater, and it was great. And I extended my trip by 2 days. And this young 15-year-old boy came up to me, and he was crying when I was leaving. And I looked at him and said, "Why are you crying?" He said, "No one has ever given time up for me. And you extended your trip for me." So Sam, you're right. It's really not that hard to feel that feeling. And the truth is, my mentor once taught me, everybody wants to get to the top of the corporate ladder. Everybody. And when you're at the top and you look down, everybody's coming for you. And how does that feel? Right? You don't want to be up there anymore because you're isolated. You're by yourself. So I agree with you. What you two do in Michigan is very admirable. And people should take that message and they should give it a shot, because it does make you feel incredibly good inside. But then you have to hold on to it, because then you go back to the real world. And that's the key. How do you hold on to that feeling, that joy you have in your belly? It's not easy.
Let's talk more about that, because Sam and I, we talk oftentimes about, we come back from experience camps, we're feeling, I just let so many tears out, emotional week, you're grieving with other people grieving. There's a lot of tears, but grief camp is also a lot of fun. You come home, you feel, wow, the world is such a beautiful place. It's also a really, really crappy place too, because this happens to people. And then you have a new found passion and I guess refreshness, and then it kind of dwindles away. It's the same. Sam and I just spoke at our biggest event, 1,000 people in the audience. We're bringing the energy. I think we crushed it. It was fun. It was great. The kids loved it. They were laughing. They come up to us after. You guys are awesome. It feels good for a day, and then you're just like, how do I bring that energy forward? It's starting to subside. How do we get back on a stage? Will we ever be on a stage again? Do the kids really like it? So, Bill, I'm really curious. Let's talk about mindset. How do you reflect on the greatness that you've done in the world, but also the crappy things too, and center yourself each day to remind yourself of all the good that you've done and all the amazing stuff and that energy that you want to bring forward?
Yeah, so let me take you through a little bit of what my meditation teacher teaches me. He's a former Buddhist monk. He's actually the headmaster of my school in Thailand. And if you think about it, emotions are like a tennis ball, right? They go up, they go down. They hit the ground, they bounce back up. If you can identify when you're at your very high, when you came off that stage, it's impossible to stay there. It's just impossible. You have to come down. It's just the law of nature, right? It's the law. So you're going to come down. And if you're really depressed, you're not going to stay there long because you know that if you're down, you can come up. So it's this idea that if you can put your emotions in this idea that when you're really high, just identify that you can come down, and when you're really low, you know you can go back up. And then what triggers that? Like right now, you two have a great memory of what you just did, right? And you're smiling because now you're reflecting on it, right? And you know that your emotion just changed on a dime, right? I can see it in your face, but you're not going to stay there forever. And when you do come down, just remember that memory can happen again and again and again and again. My daughter, my oldest daughter, and she allows me to talk about this, she was a heroin addict. She was using for a number of years. She overdosed 3 times. We almost lost her. And we talk a lot about what it was like. And she used to tell me all the time, Dad, it was never me trying to find the drug. It was what that drug would do to me and how I felt. But I always knew that I was going to come down off that high and I was going to need it again. But I didn't need it to go seek the needle. I just needed that euphoria bringing me back up. So she needed to be able to regulate her ups and her downs to be able to live in equilibrium, which is what we all want. We all want equilibrium, right? We all say, let's have peace, right? When you're in a panic attack, what's the first thing they say to you? Take a breath, take a breath, take a breath. Why? Because your mind can only have one thought in it at a time. And that thought at that moment is taking a breath, which means everything else goes away, right? So again, back to what you were talking about, Parker, we're going to have these emotions up and down. The trick is to be able to regulate how high you go and how long you stay there. And the same thing is at the bottom. So when you come back from camp, and you're having a bad day, you can go back into your memory box and you can remember that day you had when you were with that little child and what you did for that child. That's how I do it.
I want to jump back in on this because I think I'm seeing the tennis ball, I'm going up, things are great. And it's kind of how I tell my story on a stage too. Like up until a couple years ago, life was really good. I mean, I had some things where, went down, went up, went down, went up. But in like a 3-month period, as I mentioned, I experienced a lot of death of friends and coworkers. And my stepdad unexpectedly just died out of nowhere. No preparation. And that was like my first full like gut punch to my body. Everything can change like that in an instant. The fragility, like people talk about it, but then you experience it. And those days after, those weeks, those months, I mean, we're only less than 3 years after that experience. It was obviously very traumatic and terrible. But I also say when I talk at Grief Camp too, that like, in a weird way, obviously I want Philip here, but I'm like grateful for that terrible, terrible experience that I've gone through, because I know that the tennis ball goes up, but eventually it comes back down. And as humans, that's kind of part of how we live. We suffer. We all will die. We all will experience death. We all will experience pain and hardship. But having that perspective that life could and probably will go down, and to your point, realizing it when you're in a good position, or just maybe an position, or maybe you're like, wake up, this work thing didn't go well, centering yourself around the perspective of this doesn't mean that much is such a good point. And it has helped me tremendously in the last 2 years to have that perspective. And it's weird. It's odd to talk about. It's odd to think about. And I wouldn't, obviously, if I could change it, I would. But like going through really, really hard things makes you a stronger, mentally fortuitous person, if that's even a word.
Yeah.
And
nothing's permanent, including life, right? It's the impermanence of life. We were born, we're going to get older, we're going to get sick, and we're going to die. It's just what life is. So if you're sad, why are you sad? Because it's a memory of something you wish you had, but it's just a memory. So why do you need to hold on to something that makes you sad as soon as you identify it as a memory or a perception? I'm going to get cancer one day. I'm going to die. Why do you need to think about that? It hasn't happened yet. So why do you need to think about that? So the more we can identify what's in our brain as either a memory or a perception, the more, if it's a memory and it's negative, why hold on to it? Just let it go. And they tell you to take a deep breath. So take a deep breath and let it go. And when a happy thing comes into your mind, remember it. But you can't hold on to it forever either, right? So hold on to it. Why not? Right? And I think that's what we're missing in our society, is people holding on to the truth for what the truth is. And the truth is either a memory or a perception. That's all it is. That's all life is. It's built on those. So when someone dies, we're really sad. Of course we're sad, because we remember all the good things, but it's in our memory box. You don't have to hold on to it if it makes you sad, because as soon as you let that go, only one thought in your brain at a time, guess what might pop in your head? A really good memory. The ball game you went together at, or the thing you did together, or right? So to dwell in the negative just makes you hold on to that tennis ball height too high. And soon it could lead to depression. Depression leads to suicidal ideation, and then the rest is just horrible. So why? Like, I won't do it. I think about my son. I think about what he could have been. I didn't have a second with him. But why do I want to stay there? I'd rather think about him right now guiding me in my life, because that makes me happy. So that's how I live my life. I didn't get there easy. It took me a while. It took me a long time to figure it out. But that's how I live it now. Sorry, Sam, you were going to say something. I'm sorry.
No, this is why I love doing the podcast, just to get on my soapbox for a minute. It's such a cool opportunity to learn from someone else. And I think, Bill, you've kind of figured this out by following Parker and our journey and talking to us now for 30 minutes. But we're kind of old souls, I would say. We've been like this since we were 18 years old, probably even earlier, of what more is there? What is truly the goals of life? How do I control my mindset? And so we're on this mission to, of course, help as many young people as we can through being introspective, teaching mental fortitude, giving people the opportunity to hear our story of grief and sadness and depression and anxiety. But to be perfectly honest, we're doing this because we are trying to figure this out ourselves. And to hear you, Bill, saying, it took me 15 years to kind of figure out what was the meaning behind my son's death to where you are now. I'm hoping that by Parker and I, this is effort, right? Having these deep, hard, difficult, thought-provoking conversations. We're not sitting here talking about the Knicks. We could be. That would be fun. We'd have a great time. But we're doing the work to dig deeper. And it sometimes hurts. It's sometimes traumatic. It's sometimes painful. It's sometimes confusing or thought-provoking. And I think for so many young people out there in the dopamine-addicted era of swiping on our phones, comparing to other people, and having social media nonstop, we don't sit with ourselves and our thoughts and converse and discuss and debate and learn and grow and challenge enough. And Bill, I think you've kind of shed some light through our conversations and your storytelling of your perspective, things I now want to take into my life, things I haven't thought about before. And I'm hoping that for Elevation Nation out there listening, they're hearing the benefits of, I'll say this, because you said how old you were, Bill. I was going to say 40 something, but you said 62. For intergenerational mentorship, friendship, and communication. That is one new thing that Parker and I are truly obsessed with. I think the last time many young people have an older mentor that's not a family member in their life is when they're playing a high school sport and they have a coach. After that, you don't have those connections anymore. And now that many people work from home, really don't have that relationship with their bosses, change jobs all the time, they're really lacking that external family member that they can look to for mentorship and advice. And it's just another thing I want to highlight is a great benefit of getting out there and having deeper conversations with people younger and older than you.
You learn a lot. You know, the great Ali Stroker says she was a young girl, 2 years old, was in a car accident. Her mom and brother were in the car with her. Her brother has neurological problems, and she is in a wheelchair. And she won a Tony Award on Broadway in a wheelchair, and she gave a big talk for me, and she said, I love to tell people that love to say, why me? My answer is, why not me? Why not me? Why do I want to look at why me when I can look at this and say, look what I can do? I was meant to do this in a wheelchair. And then there's another gentleman, Joe DeMeo, who works, he's a member of our community at this organization, myFace, that I'm executive director of. And Joe got into a horrific car accident, and he was driving home from work. He did a double. He fell asleep, hit a curb, the car flipped. 80% of his body is burned. He had a facial transplant and double hand transplant. He's 27 years old. And he's out there speaking with me about the same thing. Why not me? Let me tell you all about me, right? And it's remarkable, his message to people. It's about resilience. It's about happiness. It's not about that event. That event isn't it at all. That didn't shape him. What shapes him is what's inside of him, exactly what you're saying, Sam. And being with other people is so critical. What he does in front of people and the way he speaks and the way Ali speaks and the way you two speak, you're much older inside in your heart than you two portray, for sure. And it's great to hear you talk this way. It makes me feel hopeful, for sure.
Well, we're hopeful too. We're hopeful, and I mean, it's just really cool, to Sam's point, to be able to share stories with people. But I always appreciate when we have someone who joins Elevation Nation who has a little bit more experience and can really give that perspective. And Bill, you've told it to us pretty straight. And I think that's kind of what authenticity is all about. That's what mental fortitude is all about, is telling it how it is, seeing it how it is, understanding it for yourself, and then obviously going and doing something with it. It's one thing to think about something. It's a whole nother thing to then think about it and do something with it. So my last question for you before we move into our next section, which is a fun section, is what advice do you have for the younger generation of people in how they should go and find a way to make their dreams a reality?
Try and make a mistake and understand that that's temporary too, right? Life's not permanent. It's all impermanent. So go and do something. You know, I'll tell you one more quick story. I volunteered at a camp in LA, and I was petrified of children in a wheelchair. And here I am, a dad at the time of 4 children. And I needed to overcome that fear. I wanted to be a better person because I wanted to be able to surround myself with kids regardless of their situation. So I went out to this camp. It's Saturday morning, and we're practicing with wheelchairs, with people in these wheelchairs, young kids, not our kids yet, that are part of the process, and I couldn't do it. And I was hysterical crying. My wife at the time, I'm like, I can't do this. The director came and said, what is wrong? I said, I can't do this. I can't be around a child in a wheelchair. They talked me off the ledge. They helped me through it. The next day, the kids come, and they have something called carnival, where the parents leave their children at the front gate and the kids go, and we have these carnival, and it's a really fun thing. We play games with them, and one kid, I think he was 12, came up to me and said, I need to go to the bathroom. I was like, oh, this is not going to be easy. But okay, so I get another counselor, and we take the kid to the bathroom, and he's in there for probably 30 seconds. It felt like forever for me. And then he said, Bill, I'm done. All right, come on in. So I go in, and I looked at him, and I said, you didn't go to the bathroom. He said, I didn't have to. And I said, well, what am I doing here? He said, if you're going to be my counselor, I want to make sure you can handle this. 12 years old. Changed my entire perspective. I had the greatest week of my life because he allowed me to be vulnerable. He allowed me to show that I was afraid. And then he showed me the courage that I could have. And I think we all need to be vulnerable. We all need to be afraid. We all need to make mistakes and not judge ourselves as if other people are judging me. That's what we do a lot. We put a tie on, we put shoes on. Wait, what are they going to think of this? What are they going to think of that? Oh, I'm going to have this briefcase and this watch. Why? If you like it, go forward with it. You don't need to think about what other people think, because the only thing that matters is what you think. And I think that's the thing that most people are afraid of. And I was too. I was too. The other thing is I have a tattoo on my chest over my heart that says, what does it say? I just forgot. Forgiveness. But it's backwards, right? So you look in the mirror, and what does it say? Forgiveness. I can read it. And I say to myself, every day there's someone I'm going to need to forgive for something, including myself, because I'm not perfect. Don't hold on to it at the end of the day, Billy. There's no need to hold on to it. And I think that's the way I live my life right now. I know it is. It's the way I try to raise my children. You're going to make mistakes. It's okay. It's okay. So that's what I think.
Just try, accept mistakes. That's mental fortitude right there. Nothing good happens in that comfort zone. It's cozy. It feels good. But man, elevation, that happens outside.
Yep.
And it takes mental fortitude. It takes resilience. And it takes acceptance that you will fail. It's inevitable. Thank you for that, Bill. Yeah. Let's move on to rapid fire. We got some quick questions for you. I like this one. Sam's going to give you a question. I'm going to give you a question. First thing that comes to mind for you. If you could somehow hack every single phone in the entire world and send one text message that goes to everyone's phone, what is the message that you're sending to everyone?
You're loved.
That's beautiful. All right, my rapid fire. Bill, you just got back from Thailand. Parker and I went to Thailand together when we graduated from college. We ate our way through that entire country. I want to ask you, what is your favorite food that you come back in the States, you go to a Thai restaurant, it's not the same. You got to be in Thailand to have it.
So they call it papaya buck buck. So it's papaya salad. It's my all-time favorite. I absolutely love it.
I miss Thailand.
Oh, yeah.
I don't miss that one time where they asked us for the spice, and I was like, let's go spicy. Bad idea. Bad idea. Honestly, if I said no spicy, it probably would have been so spicy, but bad idea. I'll never forget that moment. Guy was laughing the whole time, and I was not laughing with him. One more rapid fire for you. Obviously, a lot of these books come from recommendations that we get from the podcast. Bill, is there one book recommendation that you have for Elevation Nation?
I would read Joe DeMayo's book right now.
What's the title? Do you know it?
I don't know the title. I've forgotten it, but you can find it on 80% Gone is his website. And it's the story of Joe DiMeo, DIMEO. It is a really quick read, but it really puts life into perspective. He got into this accident at 19 years old. His life changed at 19 years old. He was a great looking kid, and he was living life the really good way. And unfortunately this happened. And he did it the right way too. He did a double. He was doing good again. And this happened. So I would definitely read Joe's book.
It's called 80% Gone. That's the title of the book there for Elevation Nation.
Thanks, Sam.
Incredible. Yeah, no problem. Bill, we ask everyone this final question, every single person that has joined us on the podcast and the thousands of people we've now had the opportunity to speak to across the globe. We're all united by, of course, our mindset, but what leads us to something we call a mental motto, a phrase, a quote, a slogan that embodies who you are at your core. You've shared so much wisdom with us. We just want one more piece, Bill. What is your mental motto?
Nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. It's what I live by.
Talk us through that. Where did it come from? Why do you live by it? I mean, obviously this whole 45-minute conversation, but I'm curious, what comes to mind?
My daughter, Amanda. People don't get out of that. Heroin addicts, they relapse. Heroin addicts die. Amanda's 8 years clean. She has 2 beautiful children. I have 2 beautiful grandchildren right now. She's got a great husband. She's living an amazing life. And that is, to me, the picture of nothing is impossible. Everything is possible. You just need a lot of help sometimes.
What a beautiful way to end a awesome, elevated conversation, Bill. On behalf of myself, Sam, Elevation Nation, thank you. Not only thank you for joining us and sharing your wisdom, but thank you for the work you're doing around the world. Thank you for believing in other people. Thank you for just waking up every day and being you. And as Sam and I have seen through meeting so many incredible people through the years on the podcast, it's the people who wake up every day and they want to be them are the ones who are really making an impact in the world. So appreciate you. And thanks for coming on.
I hope that you two wake up and see the impact you're making in this world, because I'm filled with gratitude right now beyond what I can express. You two are making a difference. And sometimes we're not able to see that, but take a look in the mirror before you go to sleep, and you guys got to tip your hat to each other because you're doing an amazing thing.
It means a lot. Thank you, Bill. And thank you, Elevation Nation. Until next week, peace.